everyone! So in June of last year, me and my boyfriend put our flat in Malmesbury on the market and we started looking for a flat to buy in Bristol. We eventually got a buyer and we found a place that we wanted to live, which we made an offer on, which was accepted. So it was all going super well until our sale fell through and we had to back out of our purchase because of a bad survey. We did learn a lot about the experience, so today I'd like to share with you all of the costs associated with moving house. The first thing you need to think about when you're moving house is how you're going to move all your stuff. So if you have a load of furniture, you might want to get a removal van and get some people to come and pack up your furniture for you. We recently got a quote for moving a 2-bedroom flat's worth of furniture and possessions from here in Malmesbury to Bristol, which is 40 miles away. The total quote was £1,200, but I think that a reasonable estimate would be around £1,000 for your average move of a 2-bedroom house. On the other hand, if you're a first-time buyer and maybe you don't have much furniture, you can probably get away with renting a van for the day. I had a little look online and it looks as though you can get a van for as little as £100 a day. So that can be a really good way of cutting costs, even if you do have a lot of furniture. If you're willing to potentially disassemble it and reassemble it yourself, you can save a lot of money. The next thing you need to think about is solicitor's fees. If you're purchasing a property, then you're going to need to instruct your solicitor to act on your behalf. If you're just purchasing, then that's going to cost around £1,000 plus £300 for searches, which the solicitor has to carry out on the property. If you're also selling your current house, that's going to cost you in the region of another £1,000. So in total, your solicitor's fees for moving would be around £2,300, which would be £2,000 solicitor's fees and then £300 for searches. Solicitor's fees can vary significantly depending on the quality of the solicitor that you decide to go for. However, I would definitely recommend going for a good quality solicitor because after all, a house is one of the most expensive things you'll ever buy in your life. Getting a survey is another important factor in your journey to buying a home. A survey can give you the confidence to know that you're buying somewhere that is going to be a good place for you to put all of your hard-earned money. So we got a survey done on the flat that we were meant to be buying in Bristol and that cost us £950. That was a home buyer's report. You can also get a full structural survey if you're buying somewhere that is maybe an older property, for example. There's quite a range of surveys that you can get and it really depends on what type of house you're buying, so I definitely suggest you look into that further. But as an approximate figure, I'd suggest you want to think about putting aside around £1,000 for the survey. Depending on what mortgage you're getting, you might need to pay a mortgage fee. This is basically a fee for setting up the mortgage. Different mortgage products come with different fees and it really just depends which product you choose. But I definitely recommend having a look at that before you sign up for a mortgage. These fees can range from £0 up to potentially £1,000 taking out the mortgage. Alongside the mortgage fee, you might also have to pay a valuation fee. This is the cost that the mortgage company incurs when it sends a person out to go and look at the property to see if it's worth what you're paying for it. Valuation fees can be zero or they can range up to around £1,000. So it's really something to look into before you pick a mortgage. And now we come to the worst part of buying a house. That is stamp duty. Literally, stamp duty is the bane of my life. I absolutely hate it. And it is just one of those things that you really don't need on top of all of those expenses of buying a property. It's the fact that you then have to pay tax on it. So what are you going to have to pay? Well, if you're a first-time buyer, then you're in luck. Stamp duty is 0% up to a maximum of £300,000 property value, and then beyond that you'll pay 2% on any value of the property between £300,000 and £500,000. Realistically, for most first-time buyers, that means you're not going to be paying any stamp duty at all, which is great. If you are not a first-time buyer, then unfortunately things are a little different. So for the first £125,000 of your property value, you pay 0%. The next £125,000, which takes you up to £250,000, that £125,000 you pay 2% on, and then above £250,000 up to £500,000 you'll pay 5%. So if you're buying a property that is worth £200,000, you're only going to be paying 2% on that £75,000 that's between the £125,000 point and the £200,000 point. So 2% would mean it's £1,500, which isn't too bad. If you buy a property that's worth £350,000, then you're going to pay 0% on the first 125,000, then 2% on the next 125,000, which takes you up to 250. That amount, which is 2% of 125,000, is going to be £2,500. And then on that remaining chunk between 250,000 and 350,000, you're going to spend 5%. 5% of 100,000 is 5,000, so in total you're going to be spending £7,500 on stamp duty, which I think we can all agree is a lot of money. So now that I've been over all of the basic costs, I'm going to summarise them for you so that you can get an overall idea of what you might be spending. So if you're a first-time buyer who is hiring a van for the day and you're buying a £200,000 property, then you can expect to pay £100 for the van, £1,000 for solicitors' fees plus 300 for searches, around £950 for your home buyer survey, £100 potential fees associated with the mortgage, and then £0 of stamp duty, which adds up to around £2,450. If you're a first-time buyer and you're buying a slightly more expensive property, let's say a value of £350,000, then your costs are going to be slightly increased. So you're going to rent the same van, have the same solicitor's fees, but your stamp duty is actually going to be £2,500, so your total costs end up being £4,950. If you're a second-time buyer, then you're going to be buying and selling a property, and those two properties may have different values, but for the sake of this summary, let's assume that you're a second-time buyer buying and selling properties worth £200,000. In that case, let's say you have a 2-bedroom flat, so you pay £1,000 for removal services, then £1,000 for solicitors' fees for the sale, £1,000 solicitors' fees for purchase plus 300 for searches, £950 for the survey, and around £2,000 in estate agents' fees, and then plus a mortgage setup fee of £100 and stamp duty of £1,500, then that's a total of £7,850. However, if you're a second-time buyer buying and selling a property worth £350,000, then the main things that are going to be different are your estate agent fees and your stamp duty. In this case, estate agent fees would be £3,500 if we're assuming that estate agents take 1% of your property value, and then stamp duty is going to be a whopping £7,500. So in total, if you're a second-time buyer buying and selling a property worth £350,000, you can expect to pay £15,350 in costs. The fact that all of these costs add up to such a large amount can make you start to think, is it really worth buying? Well, the question is, how long do you intend to be in a property? When I bought this flat, I thought, I might live there for maybe 2 years and then I'll move on. Now I realise how expensive it is to move all the time. If you were to be buying and selling a property worth £350,000, you are literally going to spend £15,000 moving, which would have actually covered your rent for 2 years. So that's something to really take into account when you think about buying, is how long are you going to be there, and is it going to be worth paying the money to move when you do decide to move? Now that we're looking for another property in Bristol, we're starting to think about how long we might want to stay in that property. It can be quite difficult to plan for the future, but you really need to start thinking about whether you're going to be wanting to save up another £15,000 just to move house in 3 years' time. It really can affect your decision-making process, and it's definitely something I think you should take into account when you're thinking about buying a home. I really hope that this summary was useful for you guys in terms of thinking about how much you might need to spend when moving house. Although it is a bit painful to think about, it's really good to be prepared so that you're ready to pay these costs when you do eventually buy a property. One final note that I would add is if your sale or purchase does fall through, you may need to cover some of these costs more than once. So in our case, because our sale and our purchase fell through, we had to pay solicitors' fees for the sale, which were £1,000, and a survey of £950. So that added up to around £2,000 in costs, and we haven't even moved house yet. So it is really good to have a little bit of wiggle room in your budget in case things do go wrong. That said, we are very hopeful that we will find a place in Bristol soon, and hopefully we'll be able to go ahead with our move, and I'm really excited to be able to share that journey with you guys. Thank you all for watching today, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks guys, bye!